Hello and welcome to Quantum IAS. We are going to start lecture 4 for mechanics. Before starting our lecture, I want to tell you something. Two things. First, if you're not submitting your DPT on time, then it will of no use because I'm not going to evaluate it. And if you're not getting the evaluation per week, then it will be very difficult for you to cope up for this timeline. Okay. And also one thing, I'm trying to upload this video on every weekend, but if it becomes a little bit late, then it will be uploaded on Monday or Tuesday or latest by Wednesday. But I will try to upload it by Saturday or Sunday only. This is for only 1 or 2 months. Okay. After that, I will become free and I can upload it on time. Okay. So in this video, in this lecture, we are going to study about the first is variable mass system and second one is elastic and inelastic collision. Variable mass system, we mainly deal with rocket equation and rocket motion. This will be our prime concern in variable mass system. And in elastic and inelastic collision, see, collision is a very wide term. We will see only the scattering part. What is scattering? I will let you know. But we will see the scattering part. Basically, scattering when particle remains same after collision, right? For example, let's suppose A is colliding with B, and after collision A remains A and B remains B. Only their momentum, or you say energy or velocity or speed, it may change, but the identity will not change. Then it will call scattering. So we are dealing with only scattering in this mechanics module here. So we will, whenever I will tell you collision, you have to mention that we are studying only what? Scattering. Okay. We are not going to transmutate the any object or particle. Okay. First thing about this collision, also when we are studying this collision, we will see it from a lab frame as well as center of mass frame. So these are the outline of our lecture. Okay. So let's begin with the variable mass system. First, let me make you clear one thing, that whatever we are studying here for variable mass system, it is non-relativistic. We have already discussed what do you mean by relativistic, right? If something travels uh, with the speed of light or near about speed of light or light comparable to the speed of light, then it will call relativistic. So we are dealing with the non-relativistic object. We are changing the mass, but not like this. M equals to m naught 1 minus v square upon c square. Not like this. So we are dealing with the mass, variable mass system, but it is non-relativistic in nature. Okay. Also, the variable mass system we are using, it may be one particle or system of particles. Right? What I want to say that dm by dt is not zero. This is what we are dealing with here. Okay. So, okay. I think I have used this page. No need to worry about this. Okay, see. So this is the our variable mass system. So one of the flaws, or you can say problem with the mathematical form of Newton's second law for constant mass is that if this is valid only for constant mass system, right? This is valid only for the constant mass system. If we have the changing mass system, we have to apply this in its raw sense. F equals to dp by dt. And you can say that it is always valid in Newtonian mechanics, right? We know that it failed to describe in quantum realm or relativistic realm, but it is very much valid for the Newtonian mechanics. Also, when we, let me show you one more thing. If you try to write this like this, f dt is equals to pf minus pi. Sorry, wait. Pf minus pa, right, for initial time to the final time. We can write this equation, but there should be one condition for this, that this is for a one particle system, not for the uh, different particle system. What I mean to say that the set of particle that we are dealing with does not changes. Okay, so set of particle that we are dealing here should not change. Okay, then we can apply this. Also, if particle is moving with constant velocity, right, and we can write it as this, and its mass is changing, this is also valid for one particle only, not for system of particles. Okay, why I am teaching you all of these, or why I'm giving lecture on these things, that why we are studying variable mass system as a separate chapter, or rocket motion as a separate chapter. Why haven't we deal this with the Newton's laws of motion? Why we are discussing is after momentum, after conservation of momentum, right? So for these reasons, so we cannot directly apply this formula or this formula for a variable mass system, right? But we can apply this formula. This is valid everywhere. Okay, this is the second law in its mathematical form. We can apply this formula. So to begin with, let us start with a question. So try to solve these questions, then we will come to the rocket motion. So this question say a spacecraft moves through space with constant velocity. Okay, the space encounters a stream of dust particles that embed themselves in the hull at the rate dm by dt. Okay. The dust has velocity u just before it hits. Okay, so this is the question, and we need to find out the external force. Okay, and we need to find the external force, that is find external force required to move space craft uniformly, right? Let's see the solution. So one thing that strike our mind first, that let's suppose uh, this is this spacecraft. Okay, not very good drawing, but let's fit fine. And these are the dust particles, let's suppose. Okay, this is the hull, let's suppose, and the dust particles are hitting here with a speed u, right? And this spacecraft is moving with speed v. Okay, so what we need to find out the force required to keep this spacecraft in uniform motion. So what you can do, one thing, what generally people do, they write F is equals to v dm by dt. F equals to v dm by dt. So this will be the answer for external force in this case, right? So most of the people think about this, but it will be wrong here. Why it's wrong here? Because see, this dm by dt is what? This dm by dt is the space encounters a stream of dust particle that is in the radius. It's the rate of embedding. It's the rate for the stream of dust. It's for the stream of dust, and this is for the spacecraft. So you cannot use this formula directly over here. Try to understand this, because it may become confusing for you when you start writing your answer. So when we can use this formula or when we cannot use this, so you need to understand this. This is the external force acting on that object only. This will be the velocity of that object, and this will be the rate of change of mass of that object only, right? So you cannot apply directly this formula for a system of particles. So what we can do, we can simply use our method. Best organic method is F is equals to dp by dt. So we will go with this approach. So how can we find the dp by dt? First, let's suppose mass embedding, mass of this air, let's suppose airport, sorry, spacecraft is m. Okay, and the dust particles, and let's suppose this mass to be delta m, right? See, one thing, this is capital M and this is small m. This is not delta m, because uh, it's not adding or subtracting from this mass only. This is the additional mass that we are getting from the outside. This is the spacecraft and this is dust, completely opposite, sorry, completely different objects, you can say. So what we can write, we can write the pi, okay, initial momentum. So we can write the initial momentum. This is moving with mv, this is pi, plus for this we can write delta m into u vector. Okay, you can see this. You can see this. This is v and this is u. So we are writing this in vector format. Okay. Also, we can write the PF, final momentum. What will be the final momentum? So when this dust particle enters this spacecraft, so its speed also become v. So this is initially they are coming with u, it is going with v. But if we say this finally after some time, so this is the spacecraft and this is embedded in it. Embedded means this becomes a whole complete system and this will move with speed v. So final momentum we can write that mv plus delta m into v vector. So we can find out the delta p, that is what? Pf minus pi, we know that, and it will come out to be delta m into v minus u. So for delta t tends to 0, that is for time infinitesimal small time, we can write it as what? dp by dt is equals to what? v minus u upon dm by dt. So this will be our answer, right? What f external that we required to give this will be the answer, dm by dt, right? Okay, so f external equals to v upon dm by dt will not be the answer. Answer will be this. So whenever you are writing momentum for a system of particle, be careful with the velocities, associated velocities and their mass. Okay, it's always better to segregate the different system of particle in different small units and then we can apply these formulas. Okay, now let us consider one more example in which we can apply this formula directly. Okay, so what happened, this is also from Kleppner. Also, I want to tell you one thing. I'm trying to cover all of the important or relevant questions from the standard book sources. But if you're unable to grab these problems, go through my videos 2-3 times or go through the notes, or also again, if you still feel difficulty to find this, you can read the book and then come to these notes or video lecture. Okay. So this is sand falls from a stationary hopper onto a freight car that's move with uniform velocity. That moves with uniform velocity, that is v. The sand falls at the rate dm by dt. What force is needed to keep the freight car moving at the speed v? Okay, so see what they are trying to say this. So we have a sand in here and we have a freight car here and it's moving with velocity v. So what force we need to continue its motion with speed v? So we can do one thing. let's suppose this is mass m, okay, and the mass entering the system is delta m, right? And we are focusing on what? In this direction, x direction, right? We have to move this card in x direction only. So we are uh, what you can say, we are concerned with the momentum in x direction only. So what we can write here, what will be pi? So pi will be mv, and 0 for the what you can say, falling sand. Why? Sand is falling in vertical direction, so it will have 0x component. Also pf, also one more thing, they haven't given the velocity of sand, so it is giving at a rate of very small rate, right? When its speed is too low. But when it comes to the freight car, then the freight car and the added sand, extra sand, will both of them will move with the same velocity. So we can write that m plus delta m, the additional mass, into v. So from here we can get the delta p as delta m into v, and for delta t tends to 0, can easily say that f external here, that is dp by dt, will become, wait, will become v dm by dt. So we can apply this formula directly for this case. Why? Because the object, both are sand, both are the same object, and also the first object or the embedded object are not moving in the initial case. Okay. Also, if it has a velocity, let's suppose if it was given velocity this side, let's suppose u, that sand is making some an angle theta with the vertical, and it's coming with velocity u, then we cannot apply directly this formula. So what I'm trying to say that you always go with this, write the initial or final momentum, then calculate the change in momentum, and then write the equation for the instantaneous time, right? So from there you can get the external force required. Okay. Also, this was the question based on the when we are adding sand. This is the case when sand is leaking. So it's leaky freight car. Okay. Leaking sand at the rate of dm by dt. What force required to move with same speed as in the previous question? V. So how can you approach this? In this question, mass is detecting. Okay. So how can you approach this? Let me tell you one thing before. According to the Newton's first law, right? Newton's laws of motion and the first law, when a body, let's suppose, if they both are moving with speed v, and when they detach, so this body will also get the speed v, and this body also moves with speed v at that instant only. Acceleration may differ for both of them, right? But the velocity just after the detachment will be same. And this is the case when you know that when we drop food, let's suppose this is a helicopter, and when we drop the packet, it go with the projectile path, and we use this formula only, this funda only, that if our helicopter is moving its velocity v in horizontal direction, then the packet that we dropped vertically will also move with speed v in the horizontal direction. So this is due to the Newton's first law, law of inertia, then when a body detach from a body, then its velocity is same as the previous body, right? So for this case, what we can write, suppose this is Pi delta m plus v. Let's suppose the total mass of the freight car is m plus delta m, and this delta m is going to leak out. What will be the final momentum? This is mv, sorry, forgot vector, plus delta m into v also, because just after the leakage its velocity will not change. So what you can say, that delta p is 0 here, so no force needed in this case. So if you have a car, or if you have a, what we see, we commonly say that truck or tractor, right, they carry the sand. So what happen, if the sand is leaking at a constant rate of mass, then we can we cannot use any external force but for keeping this in uniform motion, or with the constant velocity or speed. Okay, so let us now come to the our main part that we are going to discuss, and that is the rocket motion. That is the rocket motion. So what is a rocket? See, all of you know that this is something like this. Something like this. Okay. So what does rocket do? Why we need rocket? So rocket is needed to move something from the earth surface to air, or from air to the earth surface, or from earth to some other planet, or into space, right? So rocket is basically a machine. Okay, I'm not going to discuss what do you mean by rocket, but I'm going to discuss about how it works and why we use this. So what happened in rocket, suppose this is the lower part and this is the, it contain, let's suppose, fuel. So what happened, this fuel burn out and it provide a immense thrust to it, which makes the rocket to move upward. Okay, so what happened, this this things goes down, and due to the conservation of momentum this thing goes up, right? Because momentum is conserved. If something is going upward, then the other part will go downward to conserve the momentum. So this is the basically what we say as rocket propulsion. What we say this as rocket propulsion, and it is based on the conservation of linear momentum. Based on the conservation of linear momentum. So we will see this from lab frame also, or from center of mass frame also, but you first need to play rocket is an, you can say, equipment which is used by us to send something from earth surface to space, right? And it use immense thrust to go upward, to discard the significance of gravity, to go up beyond gravity also, and it is basically based on the conservation of momentum, and it is also a variable mass system. Okay, it is also what, it's a variable mass system because its mass vary after time. Also, you can write that it contain both fuel, solid as well as liquid fuel, right? You know, need not to remember these things, right? For liquid they use liquid hydrogen, or paraffin. Okay, and for the solid, they use something like gunpowder, you can say. Right. So for fuel, for solid fuel, they do not need oxidizer, but for liquid, they have to mix with some oxidizing agent, right? Oxidizer. So what happens basically for gunpowder or this liquid or solid fuel, what they do, they mix, for example, liquid hydrogen mixed with the oxidizer, and from this chemical reaction, immense heat or energy is produced, and which this is the heat or energy, you can say. You have also seen the rocket मोशन, राइट? टीवी पे भी दिखा रहे थे कि जब रॉकेट उड़ता है तो पीछे पूरा का पूरा आग और धुआं ये जो निकलती है, तो इट प्रोवाइड थ्रस्ट टू द रॉकेट एंड इट मूव्स अपवर्ड. So this is about the rocket. Okay, now come to the rocket propulsion. We are interested in finding the rocket motion. So what happened in the rocket? See this. So we are going to discuss for 2 time, right? This is time t, and this one we will refer for time t plus, let's suppose, delta t. Okay, so for time t, let us consider this as our rocket. Okay, this is looking like missile, but don't worry. Okay, this is mass m and this is mass delta m, and this is moving with velocity v. So at t time you can see this. Okay, और चाहो तो यहाँ से आग वाग निकाल दो. Here, for after a certain interval of time, you can write this. Okay, so what we will do, we will deattach these things. Okay, so it will become like this, and this will come out like this. So it will mass m, this is delta m. Okay, and let's suppose this is moving with speed v. So here we are defining the expulsion velocity, right? Or you can say the exhaust velocity. Let me define exhaust velocity. You can say that velocity at which the end part, this is the end part, thrown out from rocket, right? And this is the velocity with respect to rocket. Okay, what we have, this is, wait, this is with respect to rocket velocity, right? So this is u, and you can say that this is velocity of expelled mass, with velocity of rocket. This is u. Okay, also here v is velocity of rocket with respect to lap frame or ground frame, you can say. Okay, what we need to consider one more thing, that we have to accelerate rocket also. So for accelerating rocket, we have to increase this speed. So let's suppose this speed is increased by this delta v in time delta t. Okay. So what will the speed of this particle? So this will become v plus delta v plus u. Okay. Let's put in this vector form. Okay. Okay. You know that relative motion. If you are not familiar with this, you VAV is equals to what? VA minus VV. So that implies VA is equals to VAB plus VB. So you can use this for finding the motion of the exhaust part after a certain interval of time. Okay. So the mass expelled, we can write the initial momentum, and that is the momentum at time t, you can say. So you can write this m plus delta m, both of them are moving with the velocity v, but after a certain interval of time, let's suppose after delta t, it will move with what? The mass m will move with v plus delta v, and the expelled mass delta m will move with v plus delta v plus u. Okay. So if you find the delta p, we will end up with this m delta v plus delta m delta v plus u. Okay. So you will end up with this equation. So again, at delta t tends to 0, if we are going to find it for a instantaneous time, so what we can say, that dp by dt will be equals to what? Limit delta t tends to 0, m delta v by delta t plus delta m by delta t delta v plus u vector, right? So what it will become? So it will become what? M dv by dt. Also you can ignore this in front of this when you are adding u plus delta v, so it will of no use because this u will be very large. I will make you clear also, and this will become what? U vector upon dm upon dt, and this is the f external, or you can say the dp by dt, right? Also you can say this is the thrust required, this is the thrust required to move the motion, and this is what we called rocket motion. So you can do one more thing, you can write this f is equals to, right, and f equals to m dv by dt minus u d capital M by dt. So how can we write this? How can we replace? So we know that dm by dt is equivalent to what? Minus dm by dt, क्योंकि जितना मास बाहर निकलेगा उतना ही मास तो रॉकेट से कम होगा. So loss in the mass in dm will be the increment in the mass of small m. So this is the rocket motion that we are interested in finding. Okay. Also we use multi-stages rocketed. We'll see in coming questions and illustration, right? So this is what we can do sorry, with our lab frame of reference, right? So see it properly, this is the rocket motion and this is important. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you, one more thing. This is the mass of the rocket, this is the mass of the rocket, this is the exhaust velocity, you can say, and this is the rate of change of velocity of the rocket. The rate at which the velocity of the rocket will change, that will make it accelerate. Okay, and this is the force needed or the thrust needed to do so for the rocket motion. Okay, now let us see this from the center of mass frame of reference. So you can write that rocket motion center of mass frame. Okay. Now let's suppose for a two particle system, we can write what we can write for velocity relation. For velocity, what we can write, that this is, let's suppose r is the center of mass, then r dot velocity of center of mass is equals to m1 r1 dot plus m2 r2 dot upon m1 plus m2. Right, if we have two masses and one is moving with r1 dot velocity, another one is moving with r2 dot velocity, we can write that the velocity of the center of two system, we can write it at this. So we have already studied in the previous lecture. Now see one more thing, we already discussed this is based on the conservation of momentum. What happened, suppose this is our rocket, this is our rocket, and this got separated from this. So what happened, it applied force, this applied some force on this part and this applied some force on this part. So if we take this whole S system, complete one, so these forces will be internal forces, so it will not affect the acceleration of center of mass. So what we can say, that acceleration of center of mass in this case is 0, because no F external. Okay, this is what, no F external, you can say that. So what does it mean? So we can write it that r dot after some interval of time, so it will become m, let's suppose delta v plus delta m into u plus delta v upon m plus delta m, right? And you can say that the difference in this, again the delta r dot, will be what, 0. If acceleration is 0, then the change in velocity will also be equals to 0. So what we can write from this, m into delta v, upper part will be 0 also, plus delta m into u, sorry, plus delta v is equals to 0. So at t tends to 0, when you divide by time, so you can simply ignore the multiplication of delta m with delta v, and you can simply write it as m into dv by dt plus u into dm by dt equals to 0. So this is what center of mass will tell us. According to center of mass, this will be the equation of this rocket. And what we can write, that we know that dm by dt minus u dm by dt equals to 0. So we can substitute this also, that dm by dt of small mass m is minus of dm by dt, that is capital mass m. Okay, so this is how we can use the rocket motion. So let us now quickly jump to the some analysis or some question based on these things. Rocket in free space. So let's suppose we don't have any gravity. There is no external force, right? That you can say that F external is 0. For F external is 0, what we can do that, what we have studied, it is same as what we see from the center of mass frame of reference. If there is no external force from the center of mass reference frame, we have derived it that m dv by dt is equals to u dm by dt. This is the equation what we have derived for rocket in free space. There is no external force. So what we can do, we need to find the velocity, final velocity, right? So we need to find the final velocity of the rocket, right? So let's start with this. Also, we are considering u to be constant, right? The exhaust velocity, we are considering it to be constant, and it normally is constant because it takes very less time to expel out all of these things. So for that time being, you can consider it as a constant quantity. So what we can see that, okay, wait, just rearrange thing, take this m here, right? So we will have dv by dt integration. This we are integrating from t naught, that is the initial time, sorry, to the final time, and here u will come outside, and we will integrate dm 1 by m. This will become dm by dt t0 t naught to tf. You can easily solve this integration. This, it will simply become dv, that is from v naught to vf, okay, and this u will come outside, and it will become m naught to m final, that is dm by m, right? So it will become vf minus v naught, you can say, is equals to minus u ln m naught by mf. So it will become ln mf by m naught. I'm taking the minus so that it become in the form of O upon f. So the final velocity will become v naught here minus u ln m naught upon mf. So this will be the final velocity. But for the most of the cases, generally you can write, generally 99% of the cases, v naught is 0. When we start the rocket, v naught is 0. We can write that vf is simply equals to minus u ln m naught by mf. This is the final velocity of the rocket after a certain interval of time, right? And you can see that the final velocity is independent of mass released. This is independent of mass released, sorry, independent of the velocity, or you can say rate. No, rate is the better word. Velocity we have already defined here. This is the u, exhaust velocity. It depends upon this, independent of the you can say the rate of mass exhausted or release, right? So what this means, that you can uh, exhaust the fuel very quickly or slowly. It's important for you, right? What it's important here, it also not depend upon the final or initial mass, it depends upon the ratio. So this ratio is very important. So here m naught by m is important, this ratio is important, also u is important. It depends upon these things. Okay, but this is only when there is no gravitational field. For example, suppose you are in no gravitational field space and then you launch a rocket, then this will be the case. But in most of the cases, for earth itself, you can write, we are dealing with the rocket in a constant gravitational field, because rocket will have some weight, right? We are considering weight considered, right? So when you consider the weight, so what will become? So we have defined that F external is equals to m dv by dt minus u dm by dt, right? We have already derived this equation in our rocket motion. So what you can do, this F external is what? Mg here. This is mg. This is m dv by dt minus u dm by dt, right? So you can easily integrate these things, right? Easily integrate, and this is homework for you. You can integrate the same thing, v naught to vf, t naught to tf, right? V naught to vf and t naught to final time. So what you will get, this is the easy integration. You will come with this equation, vf is equals to v naught plus, okay, u, this will integrate with, this will become ln mf by m naught. You can just reverse the equation and you will get minus sign here, okay, plus g into tf minus t naught. So this will come additional when you integrate, because this is the constant term. See this, when you integrate, this will become. So generally we also know that v naught is 0, right? And taking vertically upward as positive, right? So generally v naught is 0 and we're taking upward as positive. This equation will become vf, I'm not writing any vector symbol because we already defined the sign convention, minus mu ln, we can reverse this equation, m naught by mf minus g into tf. T naught is also 0, right? So at initial time t equals to 0, we can add this equation. So what you can refer from this, that you can say from this tf is the time taken by the rocket to burn the fuel. So what you can say, that shorter the time, or you can say the burn time, greater the final velocity, right? जितना ही छोटा होगा उतना ही कम माइनस होगा, उतना ही ज्यादा इसकी velocity होगी, right? So this is the significance, and that's why if you have seen any rocket propulsion, you have seen this is very nice to see that gas coming out, right? This is the rocket and gas comes out like this, and this completes in very quickly. This is very quickly, so that it gets a great final speed. Okay, also one of the most commonly used rocket is multi-stage rocket. because getting so much speed is not very feasible when you use a single stage rocket, right? So we need something like 2 or 3 stage rocket or 4 stage rocket, you can say that, right? Because for getting the higher velocity, you need to have a high exhaust velocity, also a higher value of the m naught by m, you can say, right? So for completing these terms and for getting rid of these things, we have to make a multi-stage rocket. So how this look like, let's see. Suppose this is the rocket, the first part, this will be the second part, and this will be the last part, let's suppose. So what happened? First this will burn out, then this will burn out, and this will move further. So each time when these go down, it make the upper part moves upward with a great efficiency, right? And also the fuel that we use in this rocket is greater and this is very small. So I suggest you to read about the multi-stage rocket, right? So write down something about this. So the first stage is largest in terms of, you can say, dimension, or you can say weight. So as we move upward, so we need less weight to have a great speed, right? And when it drop down, it get rid out of it. This is the second stage. When it drop down, it get rid out of it, right? And also don't need to what we you can say, remember these things, right? Also the orbital speed and the escape velocity, when we read, we will cover these in when we read about the gravitation chapter, okay? So you need not to focus about these things. Also keep one thing also in mind. Sometime rate is given, that dm by dt is given alpha or beta, right? So you just need to substitute these value in your numerical problem. So numerical problem that are asked for this is very straightforward. So you have only two conditions in which you can ask gravitation free or with gravitation. So let's look some example for this. Write down this question. Show that rocket speed is twice the exhaust speed when m naught m equals to e square. So it's a very direct formula putting question, so you can easily do this, okay? So we know that, right, ki v equals to you can say that minus, or for the speed only, so we are not considering with the sign, so you can write for speed u, v equals to u ln m naught by m, right? So from this is what, this is our rocket speed and this is what our exhaust speed. So v is very obvious, v by u become ln m naught by m is what, e square. So we know that this is 2 ln e and that is equals to 2. So you can easily prove it, okay? Also one more thing, a rocket of mass 20 kg has 180 kg of fuel. So this fuel will exhaust out. The exhaust velocity is 1.6 kilometer per second. Calculate the vertical speed gain by the rocket when rate of consumption of fuel is 2 kg per second. So this is another beauty of physics. By seeing, if you're not getting anything from the question, just by seeing the unit, you can make an idea what it is. So consumption of fuel is what? This is dm by dt. Okay. Okay. So we can write the final velocity is equals to v minus u ln m naught by m. So you can simply put these things. So we have to find the v. We have given u. What is u? So u is given here 1.6 into 10 to the power 3 meter per second. You can convert this. So I'm not going to solve this. This is a very straightforward question. Okay. Also, what we need is m naught. So m naught will be 200 kg. Okay. And rocket of mass is 20. So final mass will be mf will be what? This is 20 kg. So you just need to add these quantities there and you can simply find the answer. Okay. And the answer is 3.68. V is fine. 3.684 kilometer per second. So this is a very straightforward question. You can do it easily. Again, so most of the questions that are asked here is basically of this type of nature. Okay, so what you can do, you can focus on the derivation part and you can see this simple. One more question I want to discuss. Okay, so for example, suppose this question is given: a rocket starts vertically upward with speed v naught. Show that its speed v at a height h is given by v naught whole square minus v square plus 2gh 1 plus h by r, where r is the radius of the earth, g is the acceleration due to gravity. Okay, so we need to find this. So how can we find this? So if we have remember the what you can say, the form of acceleration due to gravity, right? What is the gravity at height h? So you can easily use g at height h and then simply energy conservation. We'll come to this question later also, right? But what I mean to say that you can expect these questions with rocket also. So here rocket is of no use, but they can ask. Suppose if they fire this from this height, the v naught will be this, and they will ask you to find out the vf at a particular time t. So what you can do, you can mix these questions with rocket motion. So you have to find g at height h, then you can do the energy conservation. So you can get the v naught, right? and if this you can get the v naught, you can get the final velocity at any time t, so you can predict. So these types of question may came in your examination, so I suggest you to solve these questions. Okay, so from this we come to the end of this rocket motion, and what we are going to study next is collision. So what do we mean by collision? How can we define collision? So to define collision, it's a very tedious process to define a collision in a single statement, right? What we can say that when two bodies uh, came together, right? So for a very small interval of time, for a small interval of time, bodies, two bodies, we are discussing what the collision of two bodies due to their mutual interaction. For a small interval of time, two bodies due to their mutual interaction can bring changes in their momentum or energy or velocity, you can say, right? One more thing, we are writing velocity here, we are writing momentum here. So if mass changes, then so we know that momentum change or velocity change is the same thing for a constant mass system, but if the mass changes, it is a different thing. So that's why I have write the velocity. Also, what collision we are studying? So we are studying the scattering. I have already discussed scattering. We are not discussing any collision in which object changes after some time, right? So collision are of different types, right? So when particle remains same, we call it scattering. Also, from your junior classes, you can say that collision based on the hitting, you can say that it is a head-on collision, or you can say is as oblique collision. So suppose this hit with this is the line of action, and after it, it goes in this direction only. Suppose this comes with this comes with this, comes with. So this what we call head of collision, that the line of action of force or the line of impact. This is what we call line of impact along the their common normal in case where they touch each other. Suppose. So this line of impact in which they are colliding, they are interacting. Let's suppose. So if the initial velocity and the final velocity both are same, you can say that head-on collision if initial as well as final velocity along line of impact. So if it is true, then it's called head-on collision. If not, you can say oblique collision. So for oblique collision, you can like this. So suppose this and this interact with this is the line of impact, and after collision it will go in this direction and it will go in this direction. So this what we call oblique collision based on their velocity, keeping line of impact as the reference line. Okay, so this what we call collision, head on collision or oblique collision based on the line of impact. Also, collision on the base of coefficient of restitution, you can say. We have divided this in three parts. So first one is elastic collision. Second one is inelastic. Wait. Let me first discuss you the what do we mean or understand by the collision process, or you can say the stages of collision, right? So first, let me tell you the stages of collision. Maybe some of you are not aware of these things. So stages of collision. For example, let's suppose this A and this B. See, collision is always an internal process. Mutual interaction, right? So you can say that conservation of momentum is always valid, right? So you can say that conservation of momentum is valid here. Maybe I will forget to state it later, but it is the very basic thing you need to study about the collision, that in any type of collision, any momentum is always conserved. For example, let's suppose this comes with u1, this comes with u2, right? So this is the before collision. So before collision, they are moving, they are going, right? At the time of collision, what happened at the time of collision? Both of them become one unit, right? This is A and this is B. If they are, in case of if they are touching, right? Also, if they are not touching, their velocity becomes equal, right? At the time of collision, when they are not changing any momentum, so they momentarily they have the same velocity if they are touching each other. Okay, and what happened after the collision? So it will move with v1 and it will move with the v2. So what happens? So let's suppose we have three balls. This ball go down and rebound back to the same height. If this ball goes down and rebound back to a lower height, and if this ball go and stick to this. So what happened if you closely observe this? What happened? This is the ball when it hit something. So this part deform first. Let's suppose if you see this is hitting. After it, what happened? It deform a little bit, right? And then it reform. So what happened? It deform and then it reform. If you want to feel this thing, you can place a glass, right? And you can what the ball that call sponge ball, right? So from sponge ball, you can see this thing that it deform and it reform. So based on the reformation and deformation, we have defined E, and E is called coefficient of restitution. So it is basically rate of reformation upon rate of deformation, and it is mathematically equals to the velocity of separation upon velocity of approach, right? So in this case, we can write as E is equals to what? In this case, separating with V2 minus V1 and approaching with V1, V2 minus V1 and upon U1 minus U2. This is the coefficient of restitution in this case. One more thing, this is the ratio, right? So it mostly is positive, mostly positive. Also, one important thing, can be applied only along line of impact, and this is the most important thing you should remember. If the particles are point masses and the line of impact are not changing, you can apply this formula. But if the impact is changing, then you have to apply the energy conservation and momentum conservation. So from this is what? This is E equals to 1, and this E is less than 1, and this is what? E equals to 0. Just see the reformation and deformation. The rate of deformation and reformation is same. Rate of deformation is greater than the rate of reformation, and here the rate of reformation is 0. So based on the E value, you can see these things. Also, what you can say, if the ball is thrown with velocity v, it will come with velocity v here only. So in case of E equals to 1, we say this as elastic collision. So if you study this collision, you should remember what? Momentum is conserved in any type of collision. So I'm writing this here only so that you cannot forget anything. And if it is elastic collision means what? E equals to 1, and that what? Kinetic energy will remain conserved. Kinetic energy will remain conserved when we talk about the elastic collision, right? When talk about the inelastic collision, that is E less than 1. So kinetic energy not conserved. Also, one more thing, complete energy is always conserved. Total energy is always conserved. We are considering only the kinetic energy. One more thing about the perfectly inelastic. That is E equals to 0. Particle sticks to each other. When particles sticks to each other, what happens? Their velocity becomes same, right? So you need to understand these three, right? So we can conserve the momentum in all of the cases. In elastic cases, E equals to 1, here E less than 1, here E equals to 0. Here we can conserve the kinetic energy also. Here we cannot conserve the kinetic energy. Here also we cannot conserve the kinetic energy, but we can make the final velocity of both the particle same. Okay.